All right. Welcome, welcome. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Oh, it's
Oh, wait. Yeah, we
Is it
see
my
we
my
see
version?
the slide version or
That's
the
fun.
presenter version.
Let's try again. I'm not really sure why that is. Try this again, Sage. I must have hit something strange. Try again. There we go. Welcome everybody to this community open hour. I am your host today, Sage Robbins. I am hosting today because our community manager is still out and we wish her well. Hopefully we'll be hearing from her soon. And in that time, we will have the community hour and just talk about her, you know, and say nice things or tell jokes or not. We'll see. I don't even get a laughter. I don't even get reactions. It's very funny. Because they're quite
We're laughing with mute on, that's why.
Laughing with mute on. We're going to go over just a few things today. This is a pretty standard agenda. General updates and our release updates, packaging updates, our working groups and clinics steps, and then we'll open it up for Q&A.
As part of working groups and clinics, could we do a DocsJam report?
I have it as first right here. DocsJam success.
That's awesome.
So yesterday we had a DocsJam. It was so amazingly successful. And Elisa, Derek, if you guys want to talk about it, please do tell us.
I haven't finished crunching the numbers of what we did yesterday, but we had looks like 15 merge requests, which
Wow.
out of 18 chapters, and we have just a few more trickling in that we're reviewing, but it was a big success. And of those 15, like I would say we had probably 11 or 10 unique contributors, which was really good.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So some good stuff. I will crunch more numbers and share them later.
Yeah, thank you. It was, I think it was a really great event and very successful. To say that it was a success is actually kind of understating it a little bit, if I can say that. It was a really great day. And thank you everyone who participated. I think that those that were able to join got to have, even if they were only there for a little while, got to have a glimpse into what we do and got to participate and contribute. And that is mostly why it was such a success. So thank you everyone for joining.
As a quick side note there too, if anyone who has been contributing to the SALT user guide repo, I'm Script Automate on the SALT Stack community chat, but if you're running into any pre-commit problems, because there were some issues around there's a shell script check that may throw some prereq problems out at you. Please reach out to me on the SALT Stack community Slack, and because we're looking at getting that removed from the repo so that it's not going to stall people from being able to contribute otherwise. But otherwise, it was awesome. It was an all-day event, and there were plenty. I logged on to multiple new PRs from both Gary and AP, and so we'll be checking out more of that.
Yeah, we had whittled them down, and now we have a whole new slew of them.
Yeah, and what is coming from this Docs Jam is actually a piece of work that will be a document, a new document that is amazing. And if you haven't checked that out, I will put a link in the meeting notes so that you guys can get there and see what this is going to be. It's really amazing. And we are super excited for this. And I think that it's going to be an amazing document that we've needed for some time. And thank you, Alan Klugler. Amazing work there. So next week, Wednesday, 5 p.m., we will have our monthly virtual meetup, and Randy will be talking from GoDaddy. He's going to be talking about his pipeline from Tiamat, build salt binaries and states as a walled garden deploy set up for teams. And I think this is going to be really great. So I hope people will join us for that. I think that's going to be awesome. Is Randy on?
Yep.
Hey, Randy. You want to tell us any more about that?
It will be okay. No. Yeah, so over here in GoDaddy, we are actually using Tiamat to build fat binaries of salt stacks. So basically just grabbing every single dependency that salt possibly need, funneling in those to the binary, and that package is actually used or is depended upon by team packages that are built out for each team. The team packages effectively contain the team's configurations, states, pillars, cloud config, stuff like that. Those repos get built into two separate binaries. The team packages are for minions and syndicates. So effectively, it's a walled garden deployment within our environment, which allows teams to consume salt automation kind of as a service within GoDaddy.
I think it's going to be a pretty good virtual meetup. I think people are going to want to attend. I mean, I want to attend. Doesn't everybody want to attend? I kind of want to hear about this walled garden deployment. Oh, I think this is going to be great. Thanks, Randy. The CVE release is still scheduled for February 25th. Aluminum release is still scheduled for March 31st. I did say that I would announce the RC date. We're going to move that by 1 week. That does mean that Code Freeze moves by 1 week. So Code Freeze is now set for February 25th, and we'll have that RC about a week later. Any questions? Comments? Concerns? Rebuttals? So here's our new, I don't even know what to call this slide. This pretty little picture that I think is kind of helpful. Hope people are okay with this. It's not actually mine, I'm just updating it. I think it does give a good visual. I prefer a list myself, but this is a pretty good visual. I hope this is good for people. So these dates have been changed here and here. And really looking to make sure that we have this RC process down, and we're going to do some more communication about that. That's a little bit different than what we've done. I'm working on that. I've got that in a draft form, and you'll see that come out. Should be good. I'll continue to put in the freeze dates. In fact, I'll put that in the What's Happening post next week as well, and maybe even put this more visible somewhere on the website. I'm not sure where, have to think about that, but I'll get it up there somewhere. Package updates. We've actually been working on a lot of different package updates, and we created this board that's out here. I encourage people to go to this and take a look at quite a few things that we're working on here. I don't know that we have time to dive into everything here that's on this project board today, but I encourage people to go and check it out and leave comments on these things, or let us know if there's some other things that we need to be looking at. We'd like to hear from people on these as well. Is Bryce on? I don't know if Bryce has anything to say. If he's on, if he's not, that's fine. Or Derek, I don't know that you do either. There's sort of a lot of moving pieces, and we're gonna be focusing on packaging a bit more and even try to get some better documentation out there for this. some really specific documentation around packaging.
Yeah, I provided a link to that board in the chat, but it is we're gonna be updating like directions on repo.saltstack.com. There's a handful of issues that are related, kind of just, they're the future of things like apt key and its deprecation, where it's still working if you're using the current commands, but we're just going to be getting on top of changing our directions and approach so that we're following best practices. That's a bit more future proof.
Yeah.
That's one angle. I mean, there's a handful of other things too that I think Bryce is working on.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Yeah, just a question on packaging. I've been thinking about packaging from a sort of security point of view quite a bit. And is there a list somewhere of, is there an easy list somewhere of what distributions and what OSs are supported by packaging? What are the supported distros and OSs?
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if I even have that handy at the moment. Derek, do you have it handy, the platform support and the OS support that's embedded in it?
I'll go find the link.
If you want to go find the link and then put it in there.
It's moved around with the migration of our site. So I'm trying
It is still there. And in fact, one of the things that's happened with that is that we didn't actually used to own that piece of communication, and now we do. And we actually want to make that better. I think that it's a little bit difficult to understand. It's a little bit vague in some places, and I'm going to be working with Derek and Bryce to be making that a lot better. Of course, it needs to be updated with new branding and new names and different things as well. And I think there's a lot of outdated content that's there. So if you have a question about it, Barney, reach out to me and ask me about that. Because there's, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's so.
Shane has shared the right link there. I just found it at the same time there.
You sure it's not the supported operating system ones that I posted?
So the supporting operating systems is OS, and then platform support is like talks more about like what's considered fully supported, right, platform. So they go together.
That PDF, that PDF for supported operating systems will exist on that same page.
Okay, perfect.
Yep. So that page has the overall, here are all the SALT versions. And then there's a SALT supported operating system PDF that talks about those OSs. But like Sage said,
let me share that out. I think that
needs to be
it needs some help.
Revisited.
It's a supported operating system. So is that from SaltStack as a company and the sort of now VMware on a commercial basis, or is that the SALT project in terms of
SALT project? Yeah,
that is okay. Cool.
Mm-hmm. And they have so SaltStack config and everything that's VMware did used to rely on this, and as we've gone to VMware, they now have something different. And I don't actually know what theirs is. Derek, maybe you do have insight into that, where that would exist on the VMware website for that, or if we're still pointing to this. There's some updates there that are probably in flux.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure on the SaltStack config side of the fence. Yeah.
And since
I guess what I'm sort of the reason I was asking that was if we're thinking about how to perhaps change some things in terms of packaging and security, like is it actually a real driver for the SALT, the SALT project to support AIX and Solaris, for example?
Oh, right.
Or is that driven by the commercial sort of side of
it was
things?
driven more, right? You're correct. The latter, it was driven more by SaltStack config, or what we used to call SaltStack Enterprise. And so that's a lot of what needs to be updated with these two different pieces, with the site and then the PDF that shows the OS. And we need to do some cleanup there. But then also, as we've made that request to say, hey, we think that some of this stuff needs to be in open source where it started, like Delta Proxy and the native minions, some of that may come back. So there's things that are in flux there, of course, and we'll make the updates that we can make as soon as possible to reflect as is today, and then try to keep that more ever fresh going forward.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a roadmap or a plan to start testing against Alma Linux and Rocky Linux, which are the new Red Hat derivatives that are Alma Linux just released the beta. They're getting ready to release this quarter, and then Rocky Linux probably next quarter as a replacement for CentOS 8.
Oh, is that the replacement for CentOS 8? We probably should. One of many.
There's a couple, yeah, besides those.
That's good to know. We actually are starting to look at that as we're looking at this and how it needs to change. There's a lot of changes that came out with CentOS, 8, and it being, it has an end of life at the end of this year, and then but 7 is going to continue, right? And so there's a lot of things that are sort of in flux there, and we'll just have to look at that. If you want to send me any details, feel free. We'll take a look.
There's also a discussion of supporting CentOS 8 or CentOS Stream as well.
Right, Stream as well. And yeah, it's kind of all over right now. So if you have any information, I'll gladly take a look at it as we start looking at what's going to be the future. Something that I think we haven't done a great job of, because just like this, things change, and it's changing all the time, and what's coming, and what is the roadmap for that. And we're trying to get a handle on that now so that we can expose that or be more transparent about what is coming and what our plan is for that. And so we're working on that right now, and hopefully we'll have that soon, and love you guys' input.
I think one thing we possibly discussed before was tracking package downloads. Do you have sort of stats in terms of per distribution and per OS downloads? Just because if we end up trying to do some things where it's difficult to support the more like esoteric operating systems, it could be good from the project point of view to go, actually, we're getting 10 downloads of that a year. Do we need to spend a vast amount of time and effort on that?
Absolutely. And we do have some stats that we're gathering on a schedule, I believe. And we're going to take a look at that as well as we start moving forward with this. And yeah, I would love to expose that somehow. I'm not sure how to make that available to you guys. I'll have to think about that.
That may be a good marker, but then you have to take into consideration if that small amount of downloads actually drives a large amount of money.
Yeah, and that's something
there's
we'll probably
still going to be some
be able to connect.
Crisscross between VMware customers and what we're doing in the SALT project.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you on the sort of driving a large amount of money thing. Partly though, if we're talking about the community putting in effort to some degree, it's got to be the what's good for the community.
Right, and that's why we have the open team, right? So if the community puts in 90% of the effort and they can't tackle those operating systems, but we have a business driver from VMware where we do need to tackle those operating systems, we have paid engineers to go do the last 10% or whatever.
Yeah.
And something that I think has come across in the last couple of meetups and some of the things that we've been doing with VMware is how robust they do have an open source office and program office, and they're really dedicated to that, and they're very excited about our community and what we've been doing, because it's a little bit different than some of the things that they've been doing. And we've been working really closely with them, and they are a big just backer of who we are as a community, and coming with us to the table as we talk about, like, does this go into open source, or how are we going to do this with open source communities like SALT, and can we do that where it's working for you guys in other projects, and we're looking to do some more of that collaboration. And so we have just a lot of support there. And I think that's really great. And I think it's going to help us with some of this stuff as we start looking at like the supported OSs. So besides that AP, that's kind of what I've got today for supported OSs. I want to make that page better because that document is subpar. I could downplay that just a little bit. It is, it's not my favorite, and I think that we could make it a lot better. But that's the document.
But I think that and the discoverability of that document has historically not been very good.
Yeah, no kidding. So now that we own it, we could actually make it maybe a static site, or we could make it part of the documentation as a separate piece of the documentation outside of like the code base, but that we update regularly, or there's some other things in the works there that we could make that more discoverable and link to it better. And that is part of my goal as switching to more of like a release manager focus, because I think that it's buried and needs updating. Would love to see a link to it under the downloads page. Yes. Yeah, you have to know how to get to it from there. Seems odd to me too. We'll look at adding that. XIP. Go back. Thank you everyone for that discussion. That's great. We actually talk about that all the time. Something that I talk about with the team a lot. Okay. Working groups. Still looking at these. Cloud skipped February, and they may pause as we start looking at some of these new working groups, that like security and the salty Kubernetes, and then breaking up testing and release to be two, one that's test, one that's release. We may look at also cloud and what they're doing there, and if we want to continue to pause or if we just want to change their focus. And Formulas is meeting every other Tuesday. Docs is meeting every other Thursday. I don't know if we're going to pause that one or not. We'll see. And then macOS and Windows still fairly active.
And I think the Docs working group will continue for a little bit to see if two of people who took part in the Docs Jam want to maybe get more involved too, just to see where we can carry the Salt user guide next, or some other tasks too going on. And then maybe revisit it in, I don't know, a month or two from now to just see how activity is and what we can do with it if we're going to continue to.
Yeah.
I am looking at this, and it almost seems that Kubernetes would be in its own working group with Salt. Has there been any thought into, and I know cloud's more about, Salt Cloud and what it supports, but has there been any thought in like dumping it into there?
The Kubernetes.
Yeah. Kubernetes. So like, it looks like it's going to be its own group. And I could see an argument for putting that into the cloud working group. I can see the pros and cons of both, actually.
Yeah, I think that, so we also talked about like having them focus on some other things too. And maybe we just need to take one of the time slots maybe for next month and just have a really open, frank discussion about where the group is going and what their focus is going to be. And maybe it is Kubernetes focus. I think that'd be great. I think there's lots of things that they could do. So I'd love to hear from them too. Maybe I'll just propose that and make that happen.
Make it happen.
I'll make it happen. Welcome, Nick. Cloud group discussion, Sage. I'm on it. Cool. Okay. And then the clinics, test clinics. I don't have the docs clinic on here. I wasn't sure if we were keeping that or not. We may.
We aren't for today, at least. But I could still see doing it, because then it pretty much just becomes allocated time for me to do some doc stuff on a stream.
Yeah, it's true. we'll keep you guys updated there. Salt enhancement proposals. Let me get back over there. So the salt enhancement proposals, I know there was not a lot of movement. And today and this last week, I've spent more time getting in there and digging into each one of those. And so many of them have actually just today moved into a final comment period. And we'll continue to move forward with those. Something that we talked about a lot today, was just the process. And some of that was me just not knowing or me understanding completely. And I think that we fleshed that out quite a bit for my understanding so that I can then move forward with some of the different aspects of where things are for these pull requests, these different steps. Some of these went into a final comment period today, and I haven't put them into the Slack channel as such. I will do so today, probably just a little later this afternoon. Some of these we're looking to put them into the final comment period, knowing that we want to accept them, even though we don't know exactly how we're going to implement. And that can be more fleshed out as we accept it and say, yes, we would like to do this, and we're going to make an issue for it in the SALT repo that's probably more like an epic, and start fleshing out how that's going to get implemented and its viability there, and kind of go into what I would probably call planning and how we're going to do this. Does anybody have questions about any of these steps specifically? Cool. I actually still have on my list some different steps, perhaps, and I need to dive into those as well, and then either make those drafts, those draft PRs, or whatever we're going to do with them. And we'll move forward with the community advisory board as well. Something that we've been lacking on here, and I apologize for that. Questions?
Nope, just looking forward to getting going on that one.
Yeah, me too.
And then working with Pedro on TMAT.
Yay! Okay, great. If there's not anything on steps, we can just open it up to Q&A. Does anybody have a topic they'd like to bring up?
I'll just say again how awesome the Docs Jam was yesterday. I think as a whole, we cranked through a ton of stuff. Like that's an entire book pretty much that was written on SaltStack, right? So
yes,
I'm amazed.
I'm working on crunching the numbers right now. We've had 15 merge requests so far. There's 18 chapters that need to be converted. 9 have already been merged in, and I know that the other 3 that haven't been submitted yet are in progress. So we're on track to totally complete that project.
Yeah, and special thanks to, again, Alan with that source content, but to everybody who's helped with the converting that stuff over, and for there's some people who are brand new to our project who've never contributed anything under Salt project before, or it's their first time contributing to open source even. And so it's kind of been really cool to see, and that's really tested our contributing guide and other things we got going on with repo, which was really cool, really nice.
Yeah, I'm still crunching the numbers on our community participation stats, but one thing that impressed me was the number of technical writers we had participating in yesterday's Doc Jam. Because technical writers are not typically the people you see in open source communities, even though everybody would love to have more technical writing representation. So this is like a really interesting model for how to get more technical writers involved in open source, because they are needed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, how many unicorns did we have on the call yesterday?
A lot.
It was fantastic. So
it's really great. And I think that it also helps us with some of those things that we may not be aware of, like the pre-commit that we just need to remove from that repo. We wouldn't have known that had we not had the docs jam, right? Like, just thought we were doing it right.
Well, another thing that was super awesome, just from my perspective, was just helping out some of the people who don't have much Git or other experience, contributing to a project. And so it was kind of neat to just personally see, like, oh, so if I'm trying to help somebody get started, I need to go like rewind way back. That's one of the things I realized, like, I've been doing this for 10 years, starting cloning Git repositories and forking and and merging and doing all kinds of like crazy
things. We do all the time.
The world.
And so it's like, okay, let's start from ground zero. So you need to create an SSH key.
Yeah. And I think that's actually kind of fun. It's something we didn't think about with the first docs jam. And we did have, I think, 1 or 2 people that joined that were like, so I don't even know Git. And we were like, oh, hey, I hadn't thought of that. Let's get you started, And it was kind of fun to see.
I'm not up to speed on the doc situation around shell check, but if we are not using shell check to verify any shell commands that get put in the documentation, what are we using?
Well, initially it was using shell check to check whether there were just flat file shell scripts in the repository. And it requires some extra prereqs. But what the other checks do, like RST check, is I think they at least do some some basic static. I'd have to like go and verify what we have. That's the other purpose of the Salt user guide as we're building it out, is we're continuing to add more automated checks as we go to see what's missing and what can be improved, because it's kind of since it's a standalone repo, it allows us a lot more breathing room to experiment before maybe even rolling that out into other repositories, similar tests.
Gotcha.
I'd like to mention real quick that I think the effect that, Wayne, you may have experienced yesterday is what some of us meetup organizers have gone through a bit more often than folks who, end up giving a presentation more seldomly, which is you have to cater to the lowest common denominator, the folks that don't do this every day and that may not even have the tool set available. So you realize that really quickly when you're organizing meetups that, oh, okay, I have people that haven't been using the Linux command line for 20 years like I have. So it's a great exercise to go through that sometimes.
Yeah, and then we actually had contributors on both Mac and Windows systems. And I'm coming from a Linux side. And so you have 3 different approaches to setting up things to contribute to a Python-based project. And I think we set up like 3 or 4 people, Lisa, with Windows subsystem for Linux. And
3. One was not successful because he was running Windows 7, and I can't help with that.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, well,
why? I just have to ask why. This is my favorite question. I just want to know, why are you running Windows 7? There has to be a reason for that.
It could have been them on their work laptop, depending on if they're at a government agency.
I really hope it's not their work laptop.
Yeah, no judgment. It's just
no judgment.
I can't help.
Would love to know why. Love to know why. It's interesting. There's got to be a reason.
They're diehards, man.
Shane, we needed you.
I think Shane would have told them the same thing, that they're on their own.
Sure. Well, I'm on Windows 7 now. What are you talking about?
Oh, Shane. Oh.
Windows 3.1 for life? Is that what I heard?
Windows XP. Yeah, no.
There's still XP boxes out there.
There are.
And
There's
Server 2000.
more than I care to admit.
I'd just be impressed if somebody was still running Windows ME.
Ooh.
That was the worst OS ever, I think.
Sounds like a challenge.
Yeah, that one I think it's safe to say is no longer around.
Now we're getting into the versions that people can run in that JavaScript engine. If y'all haven't seen that, the thing is fascinating.
Oh, boy.
You could boot up old Windows versions in the JavaScript engine.
I had a friend.
Again, why?
Windows ME and he had to reformat his computer about every week. It was pretty spectacular.
Oh man.
Windows 98 would be an upgrade from ME.
Oh, and a good comment too in the chat there is that GitHub Desktop has been a helpful approach for people who are new to Git. Also, I think there's a few other kind of GUI clients too that have helped with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think there's one called Tower, which is confusing because I think there's Puppet's enterprise version is called Tower, isn't it?
Ansible's enterprise
or Ansible's,
version.
yeah.
Ansible Tower, yeah.
It's confusing.
It's really fun is walking Git newbies through rebasing.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Man.
You know, I give people
we
the cheat
did help
sheets.
with that.
You know,
Yeah, that was one of our late night
that.
calls, working on rebasing.
Yeah.
Yeah, rebasing on a Windows contributor, but yeah. Thankfully, GitLab and GitHub most of the time have the button work nicely for like, hey, rebase. Oh, good, it worked. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yes. But I think it's always really good for us to do those. I'd like to plan more of those. They're really great for us to do, and finding our time to plan them, which is basically me. It's basically Sage, having time to plan them and figure out where they need to go, and then organizing it and getting it up and running. Because I'd like to continue to do another port to master jam. I'd love to do more of these that are really specific and are goal oriented. We have a thing that we're going to finish, and I think that's what made it more successful this time. And if people have suggestions of what we could focus on, I'd love to hear it. I think having something really, really specific like that makes it more fun too. We know what we're marching towards. And so I don't always have all the ideas. So I look to you all experts to tell me what we might need to be focusing on.
Yeah, and the specific goals actually are what allowed technical writers to come in, because then we didn't have to go, hey, by the way, you need to know how salt works, and you need to kind of go figure this whole new thing out that you've never run into before. It was more of a, let's get you set up with the tool chain and with GitHub, GitLab, and the contributing process. And I think more of this stuff I think is harder. I think the reason we had such a good amount of people show up is because it is harder for, I think, new people to find an event they could actually take part in and really learn. And I think you see that even a lot with even the jobs in the industry, is that everyone's looking for senior level people. Everyone wants the really, really skilled people to get in and do stuff. And then when people are first figuring stuff out, there isn't like enough of a opportunity to really get their foot in the door to really understand how simple processes can work like this.
That's where I think OSS can really shine, is like bridging people who are new to an industry and who want to break into that industry but can't because there's that big wall of you need to have experience to get in. So I just really think that is where OSS can tap into people who want to contribute but don't have any other avenue to do so. And I wanted to mention one other thing related to when should we hold community events. Derek and I are starting to realize there is no perfect time to have a community event. There's always going to be something crazy going on, no matter what date you pick. So it's kind of like, just pick a date and commit to it, and it'll all work out. And just be aware that there will be a lot of chaos surrounding it usually, but it's okay because it really makes a difference to the community.
And it may have taken me a few hours to review one merge request, but it happened. I may have been distracted and working on too many other things I was getting messaged about that were urgent. But like you said, there isn't always this is the most ideal time. Nothing will be going on at this time. It'll be great. That doesn't happen. So
there's no such thing.
Yeah. So
there's no such thing.
This
one worked out because it was separate from the salt repo, and I'm not that it has to be that way, but that actually I think really helped.
I wonder if a similar swarm style type approach might be beneficial for parts of the salt stack code base as well.
Absolutely. If you have suggestions, just let me know. I think that there's quite a few places where I think about that sentence alone, and I'm like, so I can think about probably about 300 modules that we know nothing about on the core team. So we could start there. Maybe we should narrow it down from that.
Right. Obviously. I'll give it some thought and get back to you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Or what I'd actually love to hear from the community most of all is you guys that are using Salt. We'd love to hear how you're using that and how we could maybe even get that into our documentation. Or maybe we need to do a virtual meetup so that we can record it and then embed that in our docs or something, or maybe we do something else there. I'd love to hear from you guys on how you're using it, because we're always impressed by that. You guys might not be impressed with what you're doing because you think it's day to day, but we are.
One comment I'd just like to make that I think made the docs jam so fantastic was that people had bite-sized chunks to work on. They could come work on something for 3 hours. They didn't necessarily have to set aside their whole day, and they could get something and they could see a real product in the end, right?
Yes, so and we're going to take from that, because I think that made it like the utmost of success. And kudos to Derek and Elisa for making that happen. Actually, they really saw the vision and made that happen.
Right, I wanted to thank Elisa especially, because Elisa went through the work of getting really nicely detailed issues and PR templates that were all specific and locked in to those chapters that Alan had written up, so that the ease of use for people getting in and assigning themselves to stuff and working on it, it just made it a lot smoother, in addition to our contributing guide and stuff for people to be able to reference. And that, yeah, definitely made that a better experience. Because one thing we don't have, oh, go ahead.
So yeah, that's my fear with what I had suggested earlier is given it's not really easy to move at such a pace with the SaltStack code base itself, there need to be some shoring up of either automation or contributing guidelines for that repo as well before we can move at that pace there and have events such as that be fruitful.
I think we could, like we did see, and we even did it during Code Freeze. We did a ports jam where we have the ports to master project board in Salt, and we were porting things from development to master. And we still saw a lot of success, even though it wasn't during that release cycle because we were in Code Freeze. We saw it in the next one, so it was a little bit delayed. But we still saw it. And I think that it's just going to take a little bit of creativity of maybe timing. So that's outside of Code Freeze, and exactly what we're going to work on and try to produce. What is that goal? And I think it's doable.
Need a master ports test jam.
We might need a test jam.
Test party.
I actually was kind of thinking about even planning, like as we start looking at a release cycle and we're planning for it, even opening up some of those things where we're like diving into how are we going to implement this, or maybe opening it up to the implementation phase of the SEPs. I think there's some things there that we just haven't thought of yet. And I'm interested to be more creative in how we could do that.
I do want to add, I think to Derek's point, it really does help. I'm just making a plug for the docs. It really helps to have a really good infrastructure of community documentation built around an event that you want to do. Like maybe not all of you realize, but like we produced probably, maybe 7 supporting pieces of documentation just around the docs jam itself, just to make sure that it was flowing correctly. And we tested it personally ourselves to go through the workflow to make sure that those documents were as helpful as they could be. And I think building that kind of infrastructure to help people help themselves during a community event is really good too.
And leading up to it, Elise and I had chatted where I mean, even just that little Windows piece, it's like, we should at least have this little Windows piece with some links to some helpful information. And we didn't realize how helpful it actually became until the event happened. And then right before, we're like, oh, we don't actually have like a Mac user section.
Yeah,
well,
we got to do that.
we better get Wayne and other people. And then Wayne's like, I've gone over to the dark side. I'm with the Penguins now. And so he was relaying his other information. So
life.
Yes. But we can always help people, even if it's not what we do every day. We're willing to help figure it out as we go. Yeah. Other questions or other comments about the Docs Jam or anything else? Any suggestions?
For those who participated, just for my document that I'm making for the retrospective for this Docs Jam, were there any like cool anecdotes, or like what was your favorite moment from the Docs Jam? Was there something where you like, this was an awesome moment? Is something like that? Anything like that?
The one thing I just thought in general was awesome was that no other open source project I've seen teaches people how to get their environment set up, like in a live session. Like people would normally have to go to commercial training for that. I think that will really helps people get past some of the barriers to contributing to open source. So I really thought it was great you guys were running those tutorials and those break-off groups to do that, because I think that was what helped people get engaged.
Absolutely.
Well, and then, if you have those steps, you can then go forward and automate the entire development environment setup as well. You got to have the steps.
Yes. In fact, as we've gone through this a couple of times, that's the next piece, right? Is how do we make this push button?
Yeah, I would say, like going along with what Gary said, like one of my favorite moments was when I was helping the Windows users and we had been struggling for like an hour because it takes a while to get everything set up. And it's kind of like in the middle of it, you can be like, why are we doing this? And then finally we got Knox running and pre-commit running and everybody was like, I see why we were doing this. It's to help me troubleshoot. Yes. It's to help make sure that my RST is good. It was like a really nice moment of everybody cheered and was really excited. So.
Yeah, and the time-consuming part around that was really those steps were all automated, as in they were commands they're able to do. It's just the amount of time it would take to enable this feature, download these packages, get all this stuff done too. And then it's also some people's, it was their first exposure to a Linux shell, or maybe even before too. So really cool. Really cool.
I mean, with a fully automated, push button, receive bacon dev environment set up as well. If you know and nail down the dates of these sessions beforehand, a week beforehand, you could send out a link to, hey, grab this. If you're on this operating system, get it going. And then in a week we'll meet up and everything will be good.
Yeah, we did that with the ports to master, and we gave them a document and places to go. And it was a little bit different setting too, because we were expecting more people to be familiar with Salt and familiar with Linux, and then we ended up with people that weren't, and so then as we started doing Docs Jams, we were like, we need to think about that common denominator, just like Cody said, and I think that's a good learning experience for sure.
I do want to say one more quick thing. Sorry.
Go ahead. No.
Which is that I would love to see us do something like this for working groups at SaltConf. I would love to have, this is just me plugging this as usual, but I would love to have like a working group day where we are able to meet with people who are interested in working on the kinds of tasks that the working groups work on, and sitting down together, assuming that we can meet in person. It'll probably be virtual again this year, but I would just love to have a working day kind of component like this, where there's a community component and we can all get together and do things together.
I love that.
And or just get more interest in the working groups as a whole. Might be a way to bolster attendance of those meetings going forward.
Yes. Something that we did at the first SaltConf that I attended was a Docs sprint. And it was like a jam. We just called it a sprint. And I think that it was invaluable, and I would love to continue to do those. Well, we are at time. I'm ending a few minutes early because I actually have a personal engagement. You know, I'm a mom on the side. Happens. It's my full-time job. So thank you everybody for being here. This has been a fantastic meeting. Thank you everybody who joined the Docs Jam and for contributing to our wonderful Docs Jam and to us. It's great. Thanks for being here, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.